Hi there, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this installment of Parenting Plus. I am your host, Isabel Garcia. In this series, we do a deep dive into topics impacting moms, dads, children, and families of all shapes and sizes. I am very excited to have two special guests with me here for this installment. We have Deb Ross with KidsOutandAbout.com. Thank you so much for joining me again, Deb.
Glad to be back.
Absolutely. And we have Dan Schneiderman, the Community Engagement Manager with Rochester Museum and Science Center. Thank you so much for taking your time.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. And so for this installment, we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics, but the overarching theme really is about math, which as a local journalist slightly scares me. That's the whole point, right? Is that math, being excited about numbers and math and just being able to transfer that to our kids. And so in terms of just what the goal is here, to get across to parents in our community, why don't we start with you, Deb, in terms of just introducing this to kids in any age?
Absolutely. I think I'm at the other end of the parenting spectrum than the two of you, right? You have a 5 and 7-year-old and Dan has an almost 4-year-old, and mine are 24 and 26. So we homeschooled the kids as they were growing up, and my husband also happens to be an industrial mathematician. So we are an extremely math-centric kind of family. Me too, as part of Kids Out and About. I look at the data for everything. Everything is quantifiable and fascinating. Math can tell you secrets about the world. It can show you all of the patterns. It can reveal truths to you with not even that much math. That's one of the things that just makes me excited and really eager to spread the word. But the fact is, people are afraid of math. And my husband would argue, as a mathematician, he was a professor at RIT, a math professor for 20 years.
Wow.
It has a lot to do with how you're taught. And part of the problem is that people are not one-size-fits-all people. You get a classroom of 30 kids, there will be 30 different ways of teaching math. One teacher, but 30 different ways that those kids resonate. So it's really hard. The schools have an extremely difficult time. And so the goal of a parent is to kind of oversee this and help kids see that numbers are their friends. And that's really hard to do if, as a parent, you too weren't well taught. You too didn't actually make those connections. And if you too have that fear of math. So this is a hard task, and I think that we're all here to help demystify this and to help parents see it is not that hard, and that we live in an age where you have tools to learn it yourself. Even doesn't matter whether you're 25, 35, 55. Wow. You too can learn the math that will help reveal those secrets to you. And of course, kids too. So we've got a lot of those secrets as well.
Yes. And I know, as a parent, I'm sure as you can, relate, and Dan, I'm sure you too can relate to this, but, just when you kind of start to really understand, the basis of parenting and think, oh my gosh, wait, I have to teach everything I know to this tiny human. And then just if you're not really comfortable with math or numbers and thinking, starting, as you mentioned, Deb, my kids are now 5 and 7, and really starting to get into more curriculum, especially for my daughter who's now in 2nd grade. And it's just, by default, a bit intimidating. But in terms of, we saw the graphic pop up there, but in terms of math being everywhere, Dan, I'm going to go to you. Can you explain how this correlates with the museum and Science Center?
So, we do talk a lot about math, but admittedly, even internally, a lot of folks have a visceral reaction to math. Even at the RMSC, a number of people over the past year, I've been asking, okay, what do you think about math? How do you feel? And I've even had some people have this like physical reaction, just be like, it's this leftover ick that's from school that's kind of been there. Unfortunately, there have been studies where that dislike of math has been passed down from generation to generation. Even by kindergarten, some kids have picked up the dislike of math from their parents.
That's just fascinating. By kindergarten, I mean, my son's in kindergarten right now, and luckily he's on a good track. He likes numbers. He's doing really well. But I know before we started taping the segment, we were talking about just programming. Of course, that's kind of the go-to for parents is anything to incorporate some educational fun into it. And so my kids have started getting into Number Blocks on Netflix, but just a fun, easy way. But I remember watching one of the episodes and thinking, wow, like this episode is spending a lot of time on just one number, but really taking it slow. And so, Deb, I wanted to go back to you as well, talking about just the different kind of age ranges, and, you mentioned that this is something that can be learned no matter what your age is, but how to start approaching it and have it not be the visceral, scary reactions. Like, how do you start?
Absolutely. So there's a number of ways. If you're very, very young, even from the earliest, counting with your kids, just talking about how many things there are and teaching them that, like, and actually, I think it's more starting with your attitude of this being fun, interesting, and something that gives you, the parent, joy.
Love that.
Right? We've talked about joy before.
Absolutely.
And so one of the jobs of parents is as tour guide to the world.
Yes.
You need to be exuding the kind of joy with your kids of, look at this thing. See, you know about that thing, but now I'm going to draw that connection for you to this next thing. That's so cool. Starting off doing that with math, it is as simple as counting. As the kids get a little bit older, like we used when my kids were young, a lot of the manipulable blocks. So feeling the quantities of things and thinking about things. Sometimes you do count things and sometimes you don't. So you're not really counting like the grains of rice that you're now sifting through your fingers. But by comparing, look at how many grains of rice there are in this bowl. There's probably about the same number of stars we can see in tonight's sky. Starting to draw the connections between the counting or the quantification of these things as similar to the quantification of these things. Get them see that what humans do is notice these things. And then you're starting to just sort of use, well, how many would you have if you took this hour to make this number of little origami things? Well, what if we did it for another hour? How many would we have then? Could we give one to grandma, one to grandpa, one to Aunt Dot, right? So like there's ways of incorporating in your language the joy of giving them this power.
Yes.
And that will help them sort of sail into more concepts of school that school gives them. Yes. And also, helps you be on top of where they are mathematically.
One of, like, as you mentioned, food, one of the things that has been popping up to mind is baking. Especially this time of year. Baking is my favorite type of math.
Love that.
Almost every type of baked good that you think of is a different ratio of the same 3-4 items. You're using flour, sometimes you're using egg, you're using water, you're using sugar. All of that is just ratios. And think about, okay, we have this many people coming over. I need to double the recipe. All of a sudden, you have to start multiplying, and you have these physical measurements in front of you.
That's so neat. Yeah, I love that concept and the approach. And you're honestly, both of you are really kind of starting to get me thinking about sometimes that I've almost accidentally, used math with my kids. But I love that the applied, math to the real life, situations. And, I mentioned my daughter in second grade, but she's doing those kind of sentences like, if Bill has, 15 postcards and, Sally comes in and has 10, but it seems so overwhelming. But breaking it down and, watching her break it down and say, okay, well, this is how we can do it. But just grocery shopping the other week, we were buying ketchup and she said, oh, I want to buy this one because it's bigger. And I said, look at the ounces and just even pointing out the numbers, but feels a little bit like, I know sometimes the parents and caregivers just need that kind of extra little confidence boost to say, you are even doing this and might not even be realizing that you're doing it.
It's crazy how early they pick it up. One of the apps that I've been using on my phone every night for bedtime is literally this app called Bedtime Math. And we've been doing this for probably 2 months. And my daughter is excited every night, right before we do her bedtime stories, to do a math problem.
That's a huge win. That's amazing. What is the app called again?
It's called Bedtime Math, of all things.
Okay.
And it has levels for, toddlers. And as you get a little bit older and a little bit older, I'll take a problem and just kind of advance it. It gives a little fun problem. But it's, sometimes it's quantifying, sometimes it's looking for shapes, because people forget geometry is a type of math. And that's everywhere. It pops up. I mean, as I'm in this room, I'm like, I see, we're sitting in a triangle. You have a lot of squares behind you. It's
Love that.
everywhere.
Yeah, so that's about where my kindergartner is right now, is noticing. I just saw, the review. They had the postcards end of the first semester here, and they were identifying objects, the stop sign, or a circle for a sun, things like that. But just I appreciate the reminder that truly is math is everywhere. And so also on that front, with the Rochester Museum and Science Center, what an incredible resource for our community
It
and
is.
for visitors of all ages and stages of life. But in terms of how this concept of thinking so positively about math is going to be taken into the new year, can you talk about that at all, Dan?
So thankfully, we are part of this national initiative called Infinite Sums, led by the Simons Foundation. We've been working with them since the eclipse, and we are part of this National Year of Math, where we're going to be going out into the community. I'll actually be teaching 15 community organizations how to go out, how to talk about math, and show that it's everywhere in all of our lives. I've been playing around with different concepts from younger kids to adults, because you need to approach it from both sides of the age range. Pointing out it's in the food you bake, it's in the architecture surrounding you. I've even started to go down this rabbit hole of Rochester math. Point out the triangles in the Liberty Pole.
Okay.
Think about the rate of water going over High Falls.
Huh.
There's that joke. Everywhere in Rochester is 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Why is that? Or one that I know Deb would find funny is, the 6 degrees of separation. I think that number is a bit lower for Rochester. I want to say it's either 3 or 4 degrees of
Right.
separation between every Rochesterian.
Right. We are we are a community that is engaged with each other. So we have a little bit higher engagement, I would say. And Dan and I worked really hard to cultivate that over the years. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you guys had mentioned it as well, but on the subject of the eclipse, of course, everyone, there was kind of this backdrop, understanding and love, of all the math and the science, of what is happening, for our community. But I know you two were, the leaders, for that period. But in terms of just the preparation, and if you wanted to kind of pivot a little bit to talk about the exciting, advancements happening with the eclipse stories.
Sure. Like, the eclipse is a gift that was given to us at the beginning of, time, pretty much, because, we knew, scientists knew for forever that we were going to have 3 minutes and 38 seconds of darkness on April 8th of 2024. So, but this is a gift that has lasted for our community. We worked really hard starting 7 years before starting the Eclipse Task Force. And then we, as Dan came on at the RMSC, and the RMSC really took the central role in this for our community, we pulled together people who never would normally know each other, work together, into a community that was took on the identity of those crazy eclipse people as we were preparing the community to experience the eclipse safely, understood what it meant, and to make this a moment that would last in Rochester's memory. And we did a pretty good job of that. But it's not just me and Dan being all rah-rah eclipse. This was this particular group of people that we really carefully both to figure out why they were there, and to help them be in an environment where whatever they did would be celebrated, augmented. We did the hard job for years and years of connecting this person to this person and this person to this person. And that is what leadership is. And that's what effective leadership is. So, we're pretty proud of that.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, huge congratulations, to you and Dan and everyone that was behind just that massive, really community kind of uplifting feat that had occurred. I wanted to circle back, Dan, just in terms of, and Deb, but whoever wants to jump in terms of just resources. So I know Rochester Museum and Science Center, of course, is just so resource rich, as we talked about before, Deb, too, just with the organizations and, outreach efforts and stuff. But maybe for parents too that want a little bit of kind of baseline just confidence or understanding, I'm sure connecting with your child's teacher, but in terms of just getting a little bit more or some supports and stuff, what would you recommend?
So we're actually starting to increase, as I've started bringing up this conversation more and more about, hey, we have math, and it's one of those subjects that we don't talk enough about. It's kind of spurred some new programs. Literally, one of our initiatives, the Joe Wilson Science Consultant Program, literally has been making fake pies for students to go and learn how to measure, how to think through why do we need to measure it this way? How can we measure it this way? What are the tools to measure? It's not just, that physical length by width by height, but it's, what is that height? It's how much it weighs. Why do we use these weights? Why do we use inches versus millimeters and centimeters? It's diving into a lot more of this. So we're integrating into our programming. We're going to do a big day for Pi Day. Pi Day's on a Saturday this year, so we're going to have a region-wide math Pi Day.
March 14th, by the way.
March 14th.
3.14.
Okay.
How many digits of pi can you do, Dan?
Yeah.
I can do about 8
okay.
to 10.
I can't.
8. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
hear
not
it.
too bad,
About,
yeah.
what is it?
We got the time.
3.141592653. I think that's about as far
Okay.
as I can go.
Excellent.
Excellent. That's so fascinating. So amazing.
The trick I've been taught is to set it to a tune. So as you go and do the numbers, you set it to, a nursery rhyme or something similar to that.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. That is just one of those like kind of caveats. And I'm sure, for anyone of all age, but when you're that kid, in school and you're like, I can go this far.
Yeah.
Decimal points too.
Yeah, I want to go back and grow up and be
Yes.
Dan Schneiderman's kid.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Just so excited. And that's amazing too, though, you mentioned just how you're applying it and just in such a positive way, for your daughter who's, just not even 4 yet. And that it can be, at any age, for even that young. And so, I guess for folks that have kind of the much younger, children, toddlers or even beforehand too, what can you do? Let's start with the Rochester Museum and Science Center. How early, is it too early to, just have kind of it's all encompassing, right? The exposure to museums
Honestly,
and stuff.
and admittedly, I will say I am biased because I have brought my daughter's grown up at the museum. She's grown up at the planetarium. There are things that could be done for toddlers. I mean, on the second floor of our museum, we have our sound exhibit, Sound Bites, and we have one of these old soundboards that honestly would not seem out of place here, or at least way back in the day wouldn't seem out of place here. And just for her to feel the tactile and for her to look around and, we'll play a game of like, what are things that you notice around us? What are the colors? What are the shapes? And then that's just kind of been layered more and more. She'll have certain things that come to mind with numbers and recognizing how many she's playing with. Honestly, blocks are some of my favorite things to introduce math concepts.
Oh, okay. I mean, hey, number blocks is what I told you in our household.
Number blocks, you can, just start placing things. I think about early play with M&Ms of like, okay, that's 1 M&M, that's 2 M&M. But there's different ways to play with it. Thinking about sound. This is a weird one to think about with kids, but sound can be done logarithmically with decibels. So you can say, okay, is this twice as loud or is it actually 10 times as loud?
I can think of some fun ways that I'm sure siblings can get involved. Like how high does your, sibling scream kind of deal? That's so neat. And I wanted to touch on too, because I know, Deb, we had previously talked about too, just young girls and getting involved in math and sciences and just this STEM fields. And so, of course, there's the incredible organization Girls Who Code, but just so many different efforts being put forth to really encourage girls to stay engaged, and as you mentioned too, all the different kids, everyone learns differently, but how crucial it is for girls, and young women to kind of stay interested and engaged in the sciences.
Sure. And, I think because girls look at their moms and their grandmoms, one of the most important things you can do as a mother or as a grandmother or as an aunt or as an cousin or whatever is yourself to not be all tee hee hee, I don't know math. No, banish that.
Yes.
Because math is accessible to you. Even if you don't know it now, you have the ability right now. Every person of normal intelligence absolutely does. You could take your time to go and relearn some of that.
Yeah.
And so like the not exhibiting fear and certainly not laughing at or just making it seem acceptable that this is something that's just not in my realm because I'm just not a math person. Don't do that.
Yes.
In contrast, find reasons that you do math well. If you're at a restaurant and you're doing a tip, you could do a precise 15 or 20% calculation,
Absolutely.
or you can do an approximation by doing something like, okay, taking 10%, which is just move that decimal one
love that.
place,
Yep, move the
and then
decimal point.
have that
Add.
added on or double it better, because like 20% is better tip than 10,
Yes.
15%. But take your daughters or your sons, of course, through that process so that they don't see a difference between their moms and their grandmoms doing math and their fathers and uncles and whatever, right? You need to model that this is something that's not special for girls or special for boys or anything. This is a human thing. It's accessible to everybody. That being said, your kids are going to get to a point where the math that they're learning is, unless, you are like my house where I have a husband who's a mathematician, it is beyond what you know.
Yes.
And there's this deep fear on a couple of levels for parents when that happens. First of all, you don't want to appear inadequate to your kids. So like there's this like, oh my gosh, what happens when I can't do this? When I'm not somebody who can teach them that.
Right.
That's okay though. First of all, remind yourself that that's fine.
Yes.
You want your kids to exceed your knowledge of things or your memory of things. But more important, you want to be able to connect them to the thing that's going to teach them and teach you. Parents are afraid when their kids come home with a math problem that they can't do.
Absolutely.
Instead of pushing that off or laughing about it, we have an amazing tool that is out in the last couple of years, and that is artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And so here is the way to frame that. First of all, being conscious of what you know and what you don't know. Confidently, no problem saying, I don't know this. So you're going to pull up ChatGPT, and you could pull it up audio so they could hear everything, and say, okay, I'm here with my daughter, and we're talking about rate problems here, and I'm just having such a hard time trying to explain to her because she didn't really get what her teacher said. And look, take a picture of the problem, upload it to ChatGPT, and say, can you please interview my daughter, Chat, to ascertain her level of knowledge.
Whoa.
Ask her to try to explain what she doesn't know, and then please teach her in a variety of ways. So first, and it works.
No kidding.
Interacting with AI can help AI diagnose very quickly what your child knows and doesn't know, and then can explain it in a variety of ways. And if you are sitting right there, you'll understand some of it too. You both, in 5 to 10 minutes, have a power you didn't have because of this thing that humans created.
Oh my gosh.
And
I
it's
love
free.
that.
Use it.
For which I'd like to point out, AI, all math in the back end.
Yes. And I wanted to actually, Deb, I appreciate you bringing that up. Just on the topic of AI, because of course there's kind of the, overarching, trends of saying like, oh, well, whatever, like it's just going to take over. But obviously that's not the case. We know that. And just the skills too, but the hard math skills and being able to apply that, how prevalent that is, and being able to engage with AI. I will admit a little confession, but this was the first year that I actually engaged with ChatGPT, and I hadn't used AI at all in any capacity that I was familiar with, aside from Alexa, whatever. But it was very intimidating to take that first step to say I've never used this before, but the insight that it can offer is pretty incredible. But I love the approach of just even the mindset of saying, and you're also demonstrating then too asking for help, which is also a great skill to have too. But on the subject of AI, Dan, I'll start with you first, but how, why it's so necessary for people to still be practicing and learning the base skills of math as AI is more evolved.
Well, those base skills are, still used every day. There's a lot of, background math that you might not be thinking you're doing that, admittedly, okay, yes, we all have calculators in our pockets these days. That, old statement, you won't have that with you. No, that's gone. That's gone.
Yep.
But there's still going to be times when you want to do something really quickly where, even just, as we were saying, figuring out tip. Honestly, that's something I'll still do by hand or just quickly pencil out, or even in the calculator app on my phone. That's something that you're going to want to figure out right there and then.
Yes, absolutely. And then Deb, just jumping to you, the prevalence of AI and why it's still necessary to have kind of those foundational skills.
Sure, of course, because, you can use tools as long as you know how to use them, as long as you are the master. The place where AI needs to belong for the rest of our lives is in the passenger seat and not in the driver's seat. People who give away their brain are kind of giving away their power to make things happen in the world and ceding that to some other people who made this device. You need to know what you know and be excited about knowing more and use this tool to teach you, and then ultimately use it for shorthand. We use this for shorthand when we're calculating things, but we need to know how to do it first. Have that be your tool. You own that, and then let your time be used wisely by letting this calculate that particular question for you. So the knowing of it first is the most important thing. Then you're the master. You're not at its mercy.
I love that. That's fantastic. And I guess so circling up, we have just a couple minutes left here, but in terms of just being able to apply this and get people excited about math, with the whole new year ahead, right? What's your biggest message that you hope that people, if it's people that have never been to the Science and Museum Center, if it's seeing it out in the community more, and for you, Deb, too, just the goal and the hope, for this theme for next year.
I would say it's that, math isn't that scary pen and paper, have to get the correct answer every time on a test. It's just a part of everyday life. It can be found everywhere. It is found so often in your daily life that you don't think about it. It's kind of incredible. The more and more I've gone down this line, it's more of like, oh yeah, I'm using this pattern. There are these weird natural laws that pop up. It's all over pop culture. I mean, one of my favorite bits that's math related is in Mean Girls. It ends with a mathletes competition.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Yes, shout out to Mean Girls. Love that. And then for Deb, I'll go to you too.
Sure. My whole role in life is to connect people with the information and resources they need to be their best selves. And one of the things that the secrets that people don't tell kids as they're learning math is, what's the point of all of this? Because kids see their parents not using this trigonometry stuff. So they think, why bother? Why? And I didn't actually know this until I got to Calculus 2. Ooh. Okay. Calc 2 is the big payoff year for trig and all higher math, because Calc 2 you finally have the tools to understand how things move and how things change and the rate of things and how they're changing. And you look at the world differently after just make it to Calc 2. And now that we have all of the resources that we didn't have when I was growing up, if you're in trigonometry, you can ask things like ChatGPT, all right, teach me about how I'm going to use this someday in calc. What is this whole calculus thing about? Right. And you have a direct line to it. As soon as you want to know, you can get there. And so big payoff in Calc 2. But you do, when you go to the RMSC and you get this sort of tactile understanding of the quantitative world that we're in, or the scientific world, you look at the world differently all around you, not just in a museum. And I love that about the RMSC.
It's been one of those fun challenges as I've been preparing for this year. So all of our ambassadors get all these items, and I've been trying to figure out, what are all of these items? So it's been, I've been looking at metronomes. I've been thinking about even getting either a guitar or some sort of instrument, because the way that chords work, it's all math.
That's so fascinating. Another idea that just pops into my head too was, RIT does, I think, a whole fashion line with blending, sciences and fashion, and there's so many different applications to it.
Crazy where it pops up. The chords, it's Pythagoras. It all goes back to, that Greek origin, but math is even from everywhere. One of the things I've been doing is looking at a lot of math books, heavily for kids as well. And one of the books I just read, The 5 Sides of Marjorie Rice, admittedly, I had to pull up my Libby app, was just, talking about the tessellation and geometry found everywhere, and how this one woman who didn't get a college education wanted to mix math and art, had just kept up that passion. And even after having 5 kids, she ended up finding 3 new tessellations, which is, just a pattern that can repeat over and over again, no matter how it's placed. She discovered 3 of them on her own.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. And there you go, woman-led as well. That's fabulous. And I just love the, really underlying theme here is just the changing relationship. And you both have actually definitely helped me feel a little less anxiety about math.
Good.
For sure. But just so many resources, and we'll put a bunch of links up on this article as well. But that is all the time we have. So wanted to thank both of you so much for coming on for the chat. Thank you, Deb, and thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much,
us.
Dan. Of course, absolutely. And thank you all so much for taking the time to join us for this installment of Parenting Plus.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.